Unstoppable Project, and I am Dr. David Hooper, and today I want to talk about why hard things changed my life, not in some dramatic social media quote sort of way. I mean properly changed it, because when I look back at the biggest shifts in my life, the biggest growths, the biggest rebuilds, the biggest changes in identity, my confidence, self-respect, they almost all came through things that were hard. Never easy, never comfortable, never convenient, just hard. And I think this matters because a lot of people say they want a different life, but they are still trying to get there through comfort. They want strength without the struggle, confidence without the proof, growth without friction, transformation without having to feel too much discomfort. And I understand that because nobody naturally wants their life to feel hard. But one of the biggest lessons I've learned is this: there is a kind of hard that damages you, and there is a kind of hard that develops you. That distinction changed a lot of things for me, because I know what it feels like when life is hard in a bad way. Please believe me. And I'm going to get into a lot of that today in this episode. I'm going to get really personal, really vulnerable, really transparent, because like I say, I know what it's like when life is hard in really bad ways. I know what it's like to feel lost, low, ashamed, heavy, far away from the person that you're trying to become. And I know what it feels like when hard is not helping you grow. It's just wearing you down relentlessly. But I also know what it feels like to choose hard things, to train when you don't feel like it, to rebuild when you've lost yourself, to start something with no safety net, to take a risk, to push your body, your mind, your standards in a way that begins to rebuild identity from the inside out. And if I'm honest, some of the best things in my life have came after I stopped running from difficulty and started choosing it in the right places. So in this episode, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the difference between destructive hard things and constructive hard things. I want to talk about what hard things taught me, about why ultramarathons mean more to me than just simply running, why I've tried to start businesses with nothing to fall back on, and why that mattered so much, why difficult training sessions have often done more for my mind than my body as well. And I want to talk about why I believe that a lot of people are living smaller lives than they need to, simply because they are too committed to comfort. Because hard things don't just test you. Sometimes they introduce you to a version of yourself that you could not have met any other way. And that's definitely been true for me. And there's a great line, which is easy things, hard life, or hard things, easy life. And that's exactly what we're going to get into today. So let's get into it. I think the reason for this conversation and why it matters so much to me is because there was a period in my life where everything felt hard. In fact, multiple periods. I've been made redundant. I've been clinically depressed. I have been morbidly obese. I've put a ton of weight on. I've been anxious. I am anxious. I've been diagnosed with ADHD. I've had business struggles. Businesses have failed. Relationships have failed. And what I remember about all of these different periods is that I was unhappy, yes, but life just felt heavy. You know, that feeling when your body and your mind and just every day is so hard to get out of bed. It's like you're wearing a weight vest. And even the simple things felt heavy. Taking a shower, brushing your teeth, tidying your room, making your bed, prepping your food. And even when life's like that, hard doesn't feel noble. It doesn't feel inspiring. It just feels grim. And, you know, like I say, getting out of bed's hard. Looking at yourself honestly can be really hard. I didn't want to look in the mirror. And believing that you can make a change is hard as well. Carrying around the frustration of becoming someone you do not respect. Now that is hard, and I've been there as well. And that really was my reality for quite a decent while. And I think one of the reasons some people struggle to choose constructive difficulty, if we want to call it that, is because they are already exhausted by destructive difficulty. And it's important to outline that variation. If life has been hard in a painful, disempowering, soul-draining way, then hearing somebody say do hard things can sound ridiculous. If I'd heard this when I was depressed, redundant, morbidly obese, and someone just said do hard things, I'd have told them to fuck off. Because you think I'm already doing hard things. I'm carrying a lot. I'm already struggling. I can't get out of bed. I can't leave the house. And I truly, truly get that. I really, really do. Because when I was at my lowest, something I definitely did not need was another quote about suffering, about how it will make you stronger. I would have just preferred my life to have stopped feeling like it was slipping away from me. But the more I look back now, the more I see that one of the biggest turning points in my life was when I stopped only experiencing hard things that were happening to me and started choosing hard things that were building me. And that was quite a big difference, a bit of a shift in mentality, because it was almost like the hard things before that were passive. I was being smashed in the face by them. I was living inside that and kind of being more reactive to it. But later, my hard choices became active. I chose to go to the gym. I chose to go for a run. I chose to lose weight. I chose to be more disciplined. I chose to put myself into discomfort. I chose to rebuild. I chose risk to stop businesses, to start again, to reshape my body. And that changed the relationship I had with difficulty, because now difficulty is no longer something that weakens me and draws from me. It becomes something that can build me too, which again, you can turn it into this inspiring thing, and you can think, wow, when I finish this, I'm going to be so pleased I did it. I've recently just started doing HIIT in the gym, high intensity interval training, on the assault bike, the ski erg, the rower, and that is choosing hard. So I've been putting that off for months. I didn't want to do it. It's too uncomfortable. But I'm actively and aggressively trying to lose weight again. I want to get in great shape in 2026. It's one of my big goals, improve my health and feel really confident and become the athletic man that I have been in the past, and it's who I want to be. And that's one of those things where you choose this hard thing, which for me is HIIT, and then when you finish it, you think, wow, I'm so pleased I did that. I feel incredible. I feel empowered. So that is probably the most important distinction in the whole episode. Not all hard things are equal. There's a kind of hard that shrinks you, and there's a kind of hard that strengthens you. Bad hard is the kind that comes with helplessness. It's the hard of drifting, of the lower standards, poor mental health that you're probably not addressing, that feeling of being ashamed of yourself, the hard of becoming someone you don't want to be, the hard of letting life happen to you while your confidence is slowly disappearing. And that kind of hard it's just brutal, man, because it's passive. It's just happening to you all the time. And it doesn't build that self-trust or the self-respect or even the belief you need to rebuild yourself. It does the opposite. But then there is this good hard. And this good hard, like I've said, is chosen. It's the hard of the run when you didn't want to do it. It's the session that you signed up for that you didn't want to do, but you went anyway. It's a conversation you needed to have even though you didn't want to have it. It's backing yourself. It's the discipline of changing your habits. The decision to hold a standard when it would be easier to let it slide. Good hard's uncomfortable. Let's make that really clear. But it does leave you stronger. And that's the difference. Bad hard drains your identity. Good hard rebuilds it. Good hard expands what feels possible. Bad hard makes you smaller. It makes you feel ashamed. But that good hard, it leaves you proud, man. Let me promise you that. And once I started understanding that distinction, it changed the way I viewed struggle completely. Because now I stopped thinking in terms of how do I avoid all of these hard things? And instead, I start to think, what kind of hard is this creating in my life? If I avoid the session, life gets hard in one way. If I do the session, life gets hard in another way, in a positive way. If I avoid the difficult conversation, life gets hard in one way. If I have it, life gets hard in another way, hopefully a more positive way. If I stay in the version of me that feels weak, passive, ashamed, life will get very hard in a certain way. But if I start rebuilding, life gets hard in another way, but it's a lot more positive. And that's where you need to be honest with yourself, because both of these routes hurt. Becoming a better person hurts, but being in a bad place is incredibly painful as well. You've kind of got to choose the pain that you want to have. And I've experienced both on numerous occasions. So please allow me to use my experience to stop you having the pain that is not productive. Because you don't get to avoid hard or pain entirely. You get to choose which kind of hard you're willing to live with. And that's pretty sobering, because avoiding the gym's hard, you feel shit, no energy. But finding the motivation to go to the gym and pushing yourself takes discipline, and that's hard too. Staying stuck's hard, but changing's hard. Remaining undisciplined is hard, but holding a standard is hard. Letting your confidence keep eroding, guess what? It's fucking hard. And then guess what? Rebuilding, that's fucking hard as well. So life asks you to choose. It's cruel. It says you can have whichever way you want. Both are fucking hard. And once I understood that, it became easier in a way to choose the kind of difficulty that could actually move my life in a better direction. And that matters for a few reasons. But one of the reasons I'm so passionate about choosing discomfort is because it gives you something that nothing else can. And that is proof. Proof that you can do difficult things. Proof that you can stay with discomfort without collapsing. Proof that you can hold the line when it would be easier not to. Proof that you can survive effort, uncertainty, fatigue, resistance, and all of these incredible things. And that really matters, because remember, confidence, like we've talked about in previous episodes, is not built by thinking nice thoughts about yourself. It's not. I'm all for positive thinking. It will not transform your confidence. Confidence is built when your life starts showing you evidence that you can rely on yourself. And hard things are one of the fastest ways to build that evidence. If you choose something hard and stay with it, you change the relationship you have with yourself. You stop seeing yourself as someone who only moves when they feel like it. You stop seeing yourself as someone who gives in the moment things feel uncomfortable. You stop seeing yourself as someone who needs perfect conditions. Instead, you start becoming someone who can trust themselves more. What and how incredible is that? It's massively underestimated. And I think that self-trust being built in ordinary moments of those chosen bits of discomfort, not the glamorous ones, not the ones people clap for on social media, the silent ones, are hugely important. It's like going for a run in the rain, or training when it's pitch black outside, or having a disciplined meal on a Friday night when no one's watching, or the hour of work you so did not want to do because your head was somewhere else, or the moment you kept your word to yourself and nobody else even knew it. Those moments look small from the outside, but they are so transformative internally, because every time you keep a promise in discomfort, something in you strengthens. And when you stack enough of these moments, identity starts changing. And that's been one of the most powerful lessons in my life. A stronger identity is not built in theory, it is chosen through difficulty. And one of the examples I always like to talk about here is my running. You know, I'm a keen runner. I've run ultramarathons before, and I must say here, I don't just mean running as an exercise. I mean what running almost represents to me. Because if you'd looked at me at my lowest, there is no way you would have said that ultra marathons would become part of my life. There's no chance. And that's really cool. And it means a lot to me. You know, I was morbidly obese. I ended up being 80 pounds overweight, damaged my body in so many ways, to then bring myself back from the brink to run not just 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons or marathons, but ultra marathons. That transformation gets me excited. And that's internally. I'm proud of that transformation. And I'm so proud of everybody who's done a transformation, whether it was an ultra marathon or a 5K. It doesn't matter, it's the process. Not because I think running long distances is inherently impressive. Not because I think everybody needs to do it. They definitely don't. But for me, it became proof that the version of me I was used to did not get the final say. You know, that morbidly obese, redundant, depressed man who didn't want to leave the house was not the boss. So ultramarathons, or any time I run really, they're not just events. They're more like reminders that 1, my body can change. 2, my mind can change. 3, my standards can change. And 4, my identity can change as well. So every time I train, I think about those types of things, not just about the running, the gym sessions, or the exercise, or whatever it is. It's more about the person I used to be, the person who was very lost, the person who would have never believed that the life I live now was possible. And that's why choosing difficulty became so meaningful and powerful. Not because of the fitness, the improved fitness that I got, more about the belief that I got back in myself. Not just in this dramatic moment, but it was over 6, 12, 18, 24 months. The repetitions, the effort, staying with it, not letting discomfort shape me instead of it scaring me. And I think this is the bit that people often miss about the hard things. They think the value's in the outcome, whether it's a race, a medal, how you look aesthetically, the business you build, the result you can post on social media. But a lot of the real value is in what the process does to your identity long before the result arrives. Running taught me how to be uncomfortable and live with that discomfort. It taught me how to keep promises to myself. It taught me how to go further than my feelings wanted me to go. And it taught me that the mind negotiates long before the body is actually done. Do you think anybody wants to wake up and say, I'm going to run 10 miles before work on an empty stomach, or 20 miles, or push their body for 30, 40, 50 miles? No, unless you are doing it professionally. It's very, very uncomfortable to do all of those things. And I think that's a really powerful lesson, not just in sport or health, but also in life, your everyday life. Because life asks us all the time, do you want to keep going when it would be easier to stop? You are constantly asked this. And if you've never trained that skill, and it is a skill, those moments can overwhelm you. And running almost gave me a place to train it. It gave me a controlled environment where I could practice discomfort, discipline, patience, the art of keeping going when every fiber in my being is saying stop. And that's why it's changed my mindset more than my fitness. It changed my relationship with effort. And it is true in the gym as well. There are sessions that are just workouts, but then there are sessions that feel like something deeper, sessions where your body's working, of course, but your mind is really the thing being trained. And I've had so many of those as well. The session you do when your head's noisy or when you don't feel like it, you're uncomfortable, you're pushed for time, your mind starts negotiating. The hit bit I talked about, when everything again in your body says, shall we quit after 10 rounds or 15 rounds when you're aiming for 20? And you're strong enough to say, no, I'm going to get my 20 rounds in. That is the shit that matters. Because again, it's proof. It's proof you don't have to follow every feeling. It's proof that discomfort is survivable. It's proof that you can choose effort over ease. And I think this is one of the reasons exercise has done so much for me mentally. And I noticed when I've stopped training, I put some weight on over Christmas 2025, felt like shit. Came into 2026 with the ambition of improving my health, getting a handle on my mental health because I've been diagnosed with ADHD and anxiety, and really just accepting that if I want to be this active person with my niece, my nephew, perhaps my own children in the future, I need to be exercising regularly to be in good shape, to be active, but also because it improves my mood. It helps with my ADHD, it helps with my anxiety, and it gives me a chance to practice being the kind of person I want to be. I want to be the guy that shows up, does the work, doesn't always need to be in the perfect mood. And that to me is really, really valuable, because in real life outside of the gym, you don't always get to wait for the perfect mood either. If you only act when it feels good, you live a very small life. And training has reminded me of that again and again. You can feel resistance and still move. You can feel discomfort and still hold the line. You can feel the voice in your head telling you to ease off and still keep going. That is mental toughness in a real grounded sense. Not shouting, not hype, just the ability to stay with difficulty and not fold. It's a skill. And like all skills, it grows through repetition. Another example for me was starting Lunala. And that was hard in a completely different way. Physical challenge is one kind of hard, business is another. And what made the chapter so significant was that it was not just uncertain, it was really exposing. I was leaving a full-time role that I was, known for, and stepping into something that had no guarantees, no clients, no stability, no salary, just a belief in myself that I could work under pressure, I could deal with the risk, and I took that choice to back myself before I had much evidence that it would work. And that is fucking hard, because I was unemployed, I was on benefits, and I was trying to build a future at the same time. And that's a pretty specific kind of pressure. It's very intense. You're trying to think big while in reality you're very small. You're trying to stay hopeful whilst also feeling very exposed. And you're trying to build something meaningful while knowing the stakes feel very real. And it shapes you, that hard shapes you, because it forces you to confront yourself. It forces you to see how much you actually believe, how much discomfort you can tolerate, how much uncertainty you can carry, how willing you are really to keep moving when the outcome's not guaranteed. And that was a big part of my growth as well, because it gives you proof that I could move before feeling fully ready, proof that I could carry pressure and still keep going, proof that I did not need certainty before acting. And again, it matters, because one of the biggest lies people tell themselves is that they will move when they feel more ready. In my experience, readiness often comes after the move, not before it. And that was definitely true for me in business. Starting Lunala was a chosen hard thing, a difficult, uncomfortable, exposing hard thing, but it developed belief in a way comfort never could have. And I think one of the reasons we don't experience more growth is because we keep choosing comfort and then wondering why life hasn't changed. That's not my judgment. It's just something I've seen in myself and in other people. Comfort is seductive. Safeness, familiarity, it feels easier in the moment. But comfort often has a hidden cost. It can quietly shrink your standards. It can make you soft mentally. It can reduce your belief in yourself. It can keep your identity small. And if you're not careful, you can build a whole life around avoiding difficulty. Then feel confused about why you are not proud of the person you are becoming. It's a real trap, because comfort, it's not neutral. Avoiding challenges does not leave you unchanged. it usually makes you less resilient, less disciplined, less trusting of yourself. And that's why I think choosing hard things matters so much. It keeps you sharp, it keeps you honest, it stops you becoming too comfortable with the easy version of yourself. And I want to be careful here, because I'm not saying you need to constantly punish yourself. That's definitely not the message. I don't mean meaningless suffering or trying to burn out or proving something every second of the day. I mean deliberately keeping some constructive challenge in your life, some friction, some effort, some standards, some chosen discomfort that requires you to push what you're capable of. Because if there's no friction, there just isn't any growth. And if there is no growth for long enough, you will start to feel flat, frustrated, and disconnected. And you'll probably be unsure why. And that, to me, is why hard things matter so much. They wake you up. So if I had to boil it down to what hard things have taught me, there'd be 5 big lessons. The first one is that they taught me that feelings are not commands. Just because I do not feel like doing something does not mean I should not do it. It sounds simple, but it is huge. Because if you live life as though every feeling deserves obedience, you lose so much momentum. Hard things taught me that I can feel resistance and still act. Secondly, they taught me self-trust. Every time I kept going in discomfort, I built evidence that I could rely on myself. And that changed how I saw myself, not through one huge movement, but through the daily repetitions we've talked about. Number 3 is that they taught me patience. A lot of meaningful things take longer than your emotions are comfortable with. Hard things taught me to stay with effort even when the reward was not immediate. And that matters far beyond training. 4 is that they taught me emotional control, not suppression, control. The ability to not let every single discomfort dictate my behavior. The ability to stay steady when things feel hard. The ability to not panic in effort. Oh, it's incredibly powerful. And lastly, they taught me identity. Hard things showed me who I was becoming. Not the person I talked about being, the person I was actually in the moments of pressure. And that helped me build a version of myself I respected a lot more. So if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, but what do I actually do with this? Here's what I would say. Firstly, choose one hard thing on purpose, not 10, not a whole new life overnight. One thing. Is it a run, a training plan, a difficult conversation, a disciplined morning routine, maybe a business move you've been avoiding, or a challenge that requires something better from you? Choose one of those. Second, make sure it is a constructive hard. There's no point choosing chaos and calling it growth. Pick something that actually builds you, something that increases self-respect, discipline, and also gives you proof. Third, stay long enough with it to learn from it. And this is a really important message. Do not choose a hard thing, do it twice, then say it's not changing you. The change is usually in the repetition. Stay with it, let it work on you, let it teach you. The rule of 100 is a really good thing here. So if you're new to the gym, do 100 gym sessions before you decide if you want to keep going. If you want to become a runner, do 100 runs before you decide if you want to continue. If you want to build a business, reach out to 100 potential customers before you decide to go all in. Fourth, pay attention to what it reveals. What does it expose about you? Your excuses, your fear, your tendency to quit, your ability to keep going, your self-talk, your standards. Hard things are revealing. Use it, use that information. And 5, use the process as identity evidence. Don't just think about the outcome. Notice who you are becoming in the process. Are you becoming more reliable, more disciplined, more resilient, more honest, more self-respecting? That is where the real win is. The real reason, though, I care so much about this topic is because I think hard things gave me access to a bigger life. Not because suffering is magical, certainly not. Not because pain is automatically noble, again, certainly not. But because choosing difficulty built traits that a bigger life requires. A bigger life requires more discipline, more emotional control, more self-trust, more resilience, more willingness to act before feeling perfect. Hard things trained those things in me, and I do not think I would have become this version of myself through comfort alone. I don't think ultras would have happened. I don't think rebuilding from my dark chapters would have happened. I don't think I would have started businesses, and I don't think I would have self-respected myself if I had continued down the path that I was on. Of course, comfort has its place, rest has its place, and peace certainly has its place. But growth usually asks something of you. And if you're willing to answer that call, even imperfectly, even inconsistently at times, even with fear still in the car, life can start changing in ways that are hard to imagine at the beginning. And that has definitely been true for me. So if there's one thing that I want you to take from this episode, it's this. Hard things changed my life because they did more than challenge me. They rebuilt me. They gave me proof. They built my self-trust. They strengthened my identity. They introduced me to a version of myself that comfort never could have created. And I think that possibility exists for everybody, more so than you realize. You don't need to make your whole life hard. You don't need to romanticize the struggle. And you don't need to become some extreme version of discipline overnight. But you do need to understand this. If you keep avoiding challenge completely, your life will probably stay smaller than it needs to. And it will also continue to be hard. So choose your hard and make sure that you are choosing a hard that serves you instead of a hard that detracts from who you are trying to become. If this episode's resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need it. Follow us on social media at Dr. David Hooper. Make sure you like and subscribe. We so appreciate your support. And until next time, stay unstoppable.